weapons sweepstakes to see who gets more countries to buy its military technology. The only two real players in this game are the Russians and the Americans, the United States. The U.S. certainly has had plenty of wins under its belt when it comes to this, but you see, lately the Russians have had some wins of their own. And the latest now appears to be a bid to supply India with advanced fighter jets. With more on this, here now is RTE correspondent Yulia Shapovalova.
The long-term Indian medium multi-role combat aircraft tender for the purchase of more than 100 medium fighters is moving forward. Applicants who want to receive $20 billion, that's the estimated sum of the contract, are constantly changing. According to the Indian press, last week the favorite was the F-21 and a veteran fighter F-16 assembled specially for India. The Russian MiG-35 is also being considered.
Indian Air Chief Marshal Birender Singh Dhanua recently got a hands-on experience with the aircraft during a visit to Russia. He said he had no doubts that the MiG-35 belonged to its class. The jet's marketed as a 4++ generation fighter, meaning it has to have modern and efficient avionics, no matter what some critics might say about Russian aviation innovation. But such a big spend isn't just down to the military. It's for the Indian government to decide which planes taxpayers' money is spent on. Russia says India recently put a spoke in the wheel in their aviation deals by pulling out of a joint project to develop a modified Su-57 fifth-generation fighter jet, which was to be built in India. Even the Indian Defence Ministry's support wasn't enough to keep the government on board. Back in 2011, the MiG-29 was in the frame for the tender, but technical limitations ruled it out. Now the MiG-35 is being named as a totally new fighter, building on the MiG-29's legacy. The $50 million fighter is in service with the Russian Air Force. Now it's up to India to decide.
Meanwhile, the mass production of Su-57 fighters has begun in Russia, according to the Sukhoi Bureau that produces the jets.
The fifth-generation multifunctional aviation complex, with high intelligence onboard equipment, low visibility, larger capabilities for intercepting air targets and destroying ground targets. In 2019, it was launched into serial production. A long-term contract was signed with the Ministry of Defence for the supply of more than 70 aircraft.
The Russian army plans to receive the first batch of 12 Su-57s later this year. In total, the Russian Defense Ministry has ordered 76 fifth-generation fighters. In May, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the task to completely re-equip 3 aviation regiments of the Russian Air Force with the Su-57.
It first took to the skies in 2010, scoring with fans for its high maneuverability, supersonic flight, as well as cutting-edge equipment and stealth abilities. The manufacturer is particularly pleased with the fighter's infrared tracking equipment, which can detect multiple targets over a long distance. Russian military aviation has long kept rivals on their toes and attracted buyers worldwide. And it shouldn't be too long before we know if India wants to expand its fleet with even more cutting-edge jets.
Yulia Shapovalova, the news of Rick Sanchez.
This is really interesting. We forget sometimes that economies are based oftentimes on military weaponry, even though we wish we lived in a world where this stuff would be unnecessary. Unfortunately, it is necessary to many countries. Joining us now, former Naval Intelligence Officer John Jordan, to take us through what Indians' needs are and if they would do well by buying this Su-57, right? Tell us about the Su-57. Is this something that the Russians can really be proud of, or is it a little bit of a flawed technology?
Well, it's more premature than flawed. The Russians, Sukhoi, the design bureau, hasn't even really got the engines finalized for it. Right now, they're still flying on the same engines as the Su-35, and the Russian government is going to build 76 of them, as Yulia just said. India just pulled out of a joint project with Russia to build the Su-57. So the Su-57 may be a little further down the road and may be very expensive. Bear in mind, the F-35 was the most expensive weapon system in history. history. And it took the United States and dozens of other countries, including Japan, Denmark, the UK, Israel, and Norway, and Turkey, all to participate to shoulder that cost. And Russia, in this case, being asked to field a fifth-generation fighter, that's a lot of resources being allocated towards an airplane without a partner to share those costs.
So the Russians have always been fantastic when it comes to ground hardware, tanks, that type of stuff. Apparently their S-400 missile defense system, everybody loves that, so that must be pretty good. What I hear you saying is this particular technology may not be as, as robust as some of those others?
No, it's just not mature yet. It's still going through a lot of its teething pains. It's hugely expensive. You know, countries field different weapon systems and allocate them according to their political needs and their economic resources and their areas of expertise. The Russians have always excelled at surface-to-air missile systems, and the most recent embodiment being the S-400 and the next one coming after that. People talk about the Stinger, you know, the Stinger surface-to-air missile is an American system. The man-portable system has used such effect in Afghanistan.
Right.
But you know, that concept was actually Russian in origin with the SA-7. The Russians actually invented that concept.
Yeah, but we stole it and made it better, okay? So stop that. Okay, I'm kidding.
Thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe.